house was too quiet for Christmas morning. Snow blanketed the streets of Boulder, Colorado, muffling every sound. Inside the Ramsey mansion, colored lights still blinked faintly on the Christmas tree. The presents were stacked, ribbons neat, bows perfect. But something was wrong. Terribly wrong. At exactly 5:52 a.m., a 911 call shattered the silence. "Please hurry. We have a kidnapping. Our daughter's gone." It was Patsy Ramsey, her voice trembling, breath ragged with panic. Police arrived minutes later, their boots crunching against the frosty driveway. The front door was unlocked. Inside, they found a ransom note, 3 pages long, spread neatly across the staircase. It demanded $118,000 for the safe return of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey. The note was bizarrely detailed, written in shaky handwriting. "We are a small foreign faction. If you want your daughter to see 1997, follow our instructions carefully." Detectives exchanged puzzled looks. Who would leave such a long note in the house? Why that exact amount, $118,000, the same as John Ramsey's Christmas bonus? The search began immediately. Officers combed through every room, the family's voices echoing through the grand halls. John and Patsy clung to each other, their son Burke watching quietly from upstairs. Hours passed. No sign of forced entry. No footprints in the snow outside. The ransom call never came. By mid-morning, the house was filled with police, friends, and neighbors. Too many people, too much noise. Evidence was being destroyed without anyone realizing it. Detective Linda Arndt tried to regain control. She asked John to search the house again, just to be sure. He went down to the basement with a family friend, Fleet White. The basement was cold, unfinished, the kind of place you didn't linger in. John flicked on the light, then froze. There, behind a small door used for storage, lay the body of JonBenét Ramsey, wrapped in a white blanket, a piece of duct tape over her mouth. John let out a sound that tore through the house, half scream, half disbelief. He carried her upstairs, crying her name over and over again. The moment he did, the crime scene was compromised forever. Detective Arndt stood in shock. The ransom note, the strange handwriting, the missing child, none of it made sense now. This wasn't a kidnapping. This was something darker. By afternoon, the Ramsey home became a crime scene. Officers cordoned off the area, but the damage was done. Too many fingerprints. Too many people walking through potential evidence. And yet, something about the case felt off. The parents were calm one moment, hysterical the next. John Ramsey, a millionaire businessman. Patsy, a former beauty queen turned pageant mom. Their daughter JonBenét, a child star in the pageant world, known for her bright smile and flawless curls. The media swarmed the story like wildfire. "Beauty queen murdered on Christmas," the headlines screamed. Cameras lined the driveway. Reporters shouted questions the family refused to answer. Behind closed doors, detectives split into 2 camps, those who believed an intruder broke in, and those who believed the killer was someone inside the house. The ransom note became the key. Experts said it was written on paper from inside the Ramsey home. The pen, too, came from Patsy's desk. The author seemed to know the family personally, details about their money, their routine, even the way they spoke. But then came the strangest detail of all. There were no signs of a break-in. No damaged windows, no forced locks, no footprints in the fresh snow. The only entrance that seemed unlocked was the one only the Ramseys used. Still, John and Patsy maintained their innocence. They appeared on TV, begging for answers. "We did not kill our daughter," Patsy said tearfully. "Someone out there did this. Please, help us find them." But public opinion had already turned. The ransom note felt theatrical. The parents' behavior seemed rehearsed. And then, leaked evidence revealed that JonBenét had suffered a blow to the head before being strangled. The combination of injuries didn't match an ordinary attack. It looked personal, controlled. The police began questioning everything about that night. Why didn't the family call 911 right away? Why was the note so long? Why would a kidnapper demand such a specific amount, and then leave the child behind in the same house. Detectives started suspecting a cover-up. Maybe an accident had happened, and someone in the family panicked. Maybe the ransom note was meant to redirect suspicion. But there was no solid proof. The DNA found on JonBenét's clothes didn't match anyone in the house. The case hung in limbo, like a nightmare no one could wake up from. The entire nation was obsessed. Talk shows dissected every frame of footage, every word in the ransom note. Was it a family tragedy, or a staged crime scene? Meanwhile, new evidence began to surface. Fibers from Patsy's clothing were found on the duct tape. A boot print near the basement window didn't match any family member. And the handwriting analysis? Conflicting. One expert said the note matched Patsy's writing, another said it didn't. Nothing was clear. Every clue contradicted the last. The detectives were trapped in a web of confusion. Every step forward only led to more questions. Then came the biggest blow of all. A handwriting expert working with the FBI called the Boulder Police Department one evening. His voice was tense, urgent. "I think you need to look closer at the second page of that note," he said. "There's something," added later. A word that wasn't part of the original draft. Detectives leaned in. What word? The expert hesitated. Victory. Victory. "Yes," he said quietly, as if whoever wrote it wanted to celebrate what they'd done. Like it wasn't about money at all. It was personal. The room fell silent. If that was true, then the note wasn't a ransom letter, it was a message. And whoever wrote it might have been right there in the house that night. The Ramsey house was no longer a home. It was a crime scene sealed by yellow tape, guarded by silence and suspicion. Inside, the Christmas tree still glowed faintly, ornaments glimmering like frozen tears. But the warmth that once filled those halls had turned cold. Detectives began working through the evidence one piece at a time. The ransom note was studied like scripture. Every loop, every stroke of the pen analyzed by handwriting experts. The more they looked, the stranger it seemed. The language felt theatrical. Victory. SBTC scrawled at the end. No one knew what it meant. Some thought it was a code. Others believed it was the killer's twisted signature. The Boulder Police Department was under immense pressure. The media circus outside the house grew bigger by the day. Reporters shouted questions over flashing cameras. America wanted answers, and they wanted them now. But inside the police station, detectives were running in circles. The physical evidence didn't line up. There were no signs of forced entry. The basement window had a cobweb still intact. And that meant no one had climbed through. So the questions turned inward, toward the Ramsey family. Detective Linda Arndt, the first officer on the scene, couldn't shake the image of John Ramsey carrying his daughter's body upstairs. "I knew right then," she later said, "something was off. It wasn't the way a father reacts when he finds his child like that. It felt rehearsed." Patsy Ramsey was also under the microscope. Why had she written the ransom note by hand instead of typing it? Why did her handwriting look eerily similar to the one on the letter? And why did the amount demanded, $118,000, match her husband's Christmas bonus to the exact dollar? The Ramseys hired lawyers immediately and refused to take separate interviews. Their cooperation grew limited. By then, public opinion had already turned. TV hosts debated every detail. Talk shows picked sides. Some called it a botched investigation. Others said it was the perfect crime. Then, something strange happened. A neighbor came forward claiming she'd heard a scream that night, a child's voice, around 2 a.m. But police logs showed that no one had reported it. Investigators checked the basement again. They found a window that looked slightly ajar, with a scuff mark nearby, as if someone had tried to climb in or out. Still, it was unclear when that happened. Then came a breakthrough, or at least it seemed like one. A small DNA sample was recovered from JonBenét's clothing. It didn't match John, Patsy, or their son, Burke. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe there was an intruder. But that hope didn't last long. The DNA sample was too small to identify anyone. It could have come from a factory worker who handled the clothing before it was even bought. Nothing definitive. Nothing solid. And so the case divided into two camps, the intruder theory and the family theory. Those who believed in the intruder theory argued that someone had broken in through the basement, waited until the family was asleep, and committed the crime. But the evidence for that was thin, almost invisible. Those who believed the family was involved pointed to inconsistencies in the parents' statements, the strange note, and the fact that the body was found inside their home, in a place only John seemed to know about. Behind the scenes, tension between detectives and prosecutors boiled over. The Boulder DA's office refused to press charges, saying there wasn't enough evidence. But police thought otherwise. Detective Steve Thomas, one of the lead investigators, later said, "It was clear the family knew more than they were saying. But every time we got close, politics got in the way." Meanwhile, new footage surfaced of JonBenét at her beauty pageants, singing, smiling, wearing crowns too big for her head. The public grew obsessed. The story wasn't just a crime anymore, it was national theater. Every image, every soundbite was replayed on loop. Who killed JonBenét Ramsey? Became the question that haunted America. And while the headlines raged, the evidence sat quietly in storage boxes. Then came a strange twist. An anonymous letter arrived at the Boulder Police Department. It was postmarked from another state and read, "You're looking in the wrong place. The killer isn't who you think." The handwriting didn't match the ransom note, but it reignited interest. A few weeks later, a man named John Mark Carr confessed to the murder while living overseas. He described the events in disturbing detail, claiming he was there that night. But when DNA testing was done, it didn't match. Carr was lying. Another false lead. Another dead end. Years passed. The case grew colder. Patsy Ramsey was diagnosed with cancer, and in her final interviews, she maintained her innocence. "I will go to my grave knowing we didn't hurt our child," she said softly. But the internet never stopped digging. Armchair detectives on forums, podcasters, true crime enthusiasts, everyone had their own theory. Some believed Burke, JonBenét's older brother, had accidentally hurt her, and the parents covered it up. Others believed the ransom note writer was someone close to the family, maybe a house guest or neighbor. The more time passed, the deeper the mystery grew. The case became less about truth and more about obsession. Still, Detective Arndt couldn't shake her gut feeling that something inside that house wasn't right. And then one night, while reviewing old evidence, a lab technician noticed something strange in the ransom note. Under UV light, faint impressions of words could be seen pressed into the notepad beneath the letter, like someone had written a practice draft before the real thing. The words weren't complete, but one phrase stood out clearly: "Don't go too far this time." Detectives stared at the screen, speechless. If that was written before the ransom note, then someone inside the house had been preparing long before Christmas night. And the only question left was, who? By the late 2000s, the JonBenét Ramsey case had become a cold shadow of itself, one of those files gathering dust in a police archive, too famous to forget, too tangled to solve. But for investigators and the American public, one question still burned: who killed JonBenét Ramsey? The Ramseys had moved away from Boulder years before. Patsy had passed, John remarried, and Burke, now an adult, avoided the spotlight, until one interview reignited the story. When Burke appeared on national television, smiling awkwardly as he spoke about his sister, viewers froze. The internet erupted. People debated every blink, every grin, every pause. "He's hiding something," some said. "He's just nervous," others argued. The obsession returned like wildfire. Meanwhile, inside the Boulder Police Department, a new team reopened the case using technology that hadn't existed in 1996. DNA databases were more advanced, analysis more precise. They ran every sample again, hoping for even the smallest match. Weeks passed. Nothing. But then one night, a forensic analyst spotted a microscopic clue missed years ago: touch DNA, found on the waistband of JonBenét's clothing. The sample was too degraded for a clear identity, but it was consistent with the unknown male DNA found before. For a brief moment, it looked like the intruder theory might finally be proven. But as the results came in, hope began to crumble again. The DNA was too partial to tie to anyone alive. It couldn't convict or clear anyone. It was like chasing a ghost. Still, detectives refused to give up. They revisited every photo, every note, every testimony. That's when one investigator noticed something odd in the crime scene photos. The basement window that everyone thought was untouched had tiny glass fragments below it, inside the room. That meant it might have been broken from the outside after all. Could it be that an intruder had climbed in, unnoticed, silent, waiting for the right moment? But if that was true, why leave a 3-page ransom note? Why take the time to stage a scene so elaborate? The contradictions were endless. Every new clue deepened the fog instead of clearing it. Then, the investigation took another turn. A retired detective, following his own theory, tracked down a man who had once worked as an electrician near the Ramsey home. The man had a criminal record, and a disturbing pattern of behavior toward young girls. The detective brought the file to the Boulder PD, but without solid evidence, they couldn't pursue it. It was another dead end, another name in a long list of suspects who would come and go. Through it all, one truth became clear: someone out there knew what happened. And for decades, they had stayed silent. The deeper investigators looked, the more it felt like the case wasn't just about one child's death. It was about a system that failed her. A flawed investigation. A contaminated crime scene. Conflicting agendas between the police and the DA's office. Every mistake in those first 24 hours had buried the truth a little deeper. Then came a revelation that sent chills through everyone involved. A lab reviewing the ransom note again found faint pencil markings, erased lines beneath the ink. It appeared the note had been drafted multiple times before being finalized. And on one of those erased lines, under a microscope, they could make out a single haunting word: sorry. That one word changed the entire tone. Was it a confession? An apology? A slip of guilt? No one could say for sure. But it reinforced what some investigators had always believed, that whoever wrote that note knew JonBenét. This wasn't the work of a random criminal. It was someone close enough to feel remorse, and careful enough to hide it. As the 2010s rolled on, documentaries, podcasts, and talk shows revisited the story endlessly. Everyone had a theory, each one more detailed and disturbing than the last. Some pointed fingers at Patsy, claiming she struck JonBenét during a fit of frustration and John helped cover it up. Others said Burke accidentally hurt her, and the parents staged the scene to protect their son. And a few still clung to the idea of an intruder, someone who had stalked the family for weeks, slipped in unnoticed, and vanished like smoke. But despite all the theories, no one could prove anything. In 2016, on the case's 20th anniversary, police released a statement. The investigation remains open. We will continue to pursue all leads. We owe it to JonBenét. Still, the truth stayed buried. For the town of Boulder, the Ramsey home stood as a ghost of its past. Families would drive by and whisper, "That's where it happened." Children who hadn't even been born when JonBenét died grew up knowing her name. And through it all, one image remained etched in America's memory. A little girl in a white dress, smiling on stage beneath bright lights, never knowing the darkness waiting at home. The case didn't just expose a crime, it revealed the cracks in justice, the flaws in human nature, and the haunting power of the unknown. Because maybe the most terrifying thing isn't what we know, it's what we'll never find out. They thought time would bring answers. But decades later, all that remains is silence, and a house that still holds its secrets. The JonBenét Ramsey case, still unsolved. If you think this story was chilling, the next one will leave you sleepless. Hit subscribe, and don't look away.